Anybody else want to jump in?
I think as far as at the counter, that's one area where pharmacists, we're sort of a rare breed in that we know the cost of the drug. In some cases, we don't know what we're going to get paid, but we know the cost of the drug, and we know the therapeutic effectiveness of it. So we can often help the patient, kind of guide them through, especially when they're hitting the prior authorizations that Dr. Harmon mentioned, or some of the other hurdles that they hit at the counter. We can sometimes help them with that, especially in those high deductible plans.
Good.
Gentleman's time is expired.
I guess I should have paid better attention, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. Thank you for the answers.
Well, the only reason I interrupt is the gentleman from Georgia has been very, very patient. And the gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all of you for being here today. Mr. Merritt, I'll start with you. Quite often, pharmacists are complaining about the fact that they're being threatened for mailing or delivering drugs by the PBMs because the PBMs own their own mail-order pharmacies. As you well know, pharmacies get contracts from PBMs unless it's a closed network, and they can either accept that contract and the terms of that contract, or they can't. If they accept it, then they can service the patient. If they don't, then they can't service the patient. That's what they're left with. With just a yes or no answer, if you will, Mr. Merritt, do you agree that pharmacists should be able to tell patients that if they pay cash for a medication, they can get it cheaper? Yes or no?
Yep.
You do agree with that. Then why is it that these contracts that I referred to earlier have gag clauses in it where it says that if the pharmacist indeed lets the patient know that if they pay cash it'll be cheaper, that they could be kicked out of this contract and that contract could be terminated? Why is that? Can you explain that to me? If indeed, as you've said earlier, you're in favor of transparency, why are the gag clauses in there? Can you explain that to me?
I don't know, and we as an industry don't defend that practice at all. So, I mean, we want people to pay the lesser of, and in fact, almost all the plans work together, the PBMs work together with what's called lesser of logic, so that automatically the person will pay the less.
And why are the gag clauses in there? Why are they in there? If you truly want to take care of the patient, if you truly want them to get their medication, why is the pharmacist running the risk of being kicked out of the plan if they offer this information to the patient? Ms. Ahui, do you ever get any of your members complaining of this?
All the time. Our members are intimidated, and most of the time will refuse to go on the record because of basically a business death penalty if they're caught talking to media, talking too much.
Mr. Merritt, during the years through 2010 through 2015, CMS has said that DIR growth and that rebate growth has grown 22% per year, whereas the Part D gross drug costs have only increased 12%. Can you explain why that difference is there, why the DIR has grown 22%, but the Part D drug costs have only grown 12%? Is there a reason for that?
Well, DIR, direct and indirect remuneration, is an important discounting tool in Medicare Part D.
Can you explain why that difference exists? If the Part D costs have only increased 12%, why have the DIR fees increased 22%?
Sure, and I understand. The PBMs, we get the discounts where we can. We pass them back to the plans, and the plans use them as they see fit. Sometimes, usually, they want to reduce premiums. They want to reduce overall cost sharing. It depends on their individual strategy.
And how far do these clawbacks of these DIR fees go? Are you aware? How far back do they go? Because I can tell you that my wife's pharmacy in March got a bill for $10,337 that went back not 5 months, but 5 years. Now, let me ask you about that. Those DIR fees, did you credit the government or the consumer with that? Did you go back those 5 years and credit the government? Because what happens is this. We've got a Part D program that has, as you well know, and everyone on this panel well knows, has a donut hole in it. You pay so much, Mr. Mitchell, I'm sure you're in this. I'm sure you have Medicare. You pay so much until you get in that donut hole, then you have to start paying for it. That means that everyone out here who buys drugs has to start paying for it if you're on Medicare. And when you charge those higher prices, the list prices we've been referring to it as, that pushes people into the donut hole even more. Now listen, it gets even better, folks. What happens next is that when you get pushed out of the donut hole, guess who starts paying for it then? The taxpayer. All of us, we get to share in it. My question to you, Mr. Merritt, are you sharing that? Are you sharing that with CMS to let them know, hey, you need to credit them back with this? Are you?
Yeah, CMS is aware of the DIR. They see all this information, and they've been very clear.
So when my wife's pharmacy got hit for the $10,337, this PBM went back and credited CMS with that and went back to the patient and said, oh, you shouldn't have been in the donut hole that quickly. We're going to go back and reimburse you that. So I just want to know, because she's going to ask me tonight about that $10,337. Did I mention it was $10,337? Because that's how much it was. And Mr. Huey, have you had any other of your members who have experienced these type of things?
Both on the retroactive, we had a call this week from a member in the Upper Midwest who went back 5 years, 6 figures on DIRs. Had another one just this year, also in the Midwest, one pharmacy taking back over $100,000 in DIRs. From really 3 different plans.
Okay,
yes.
The last thing I'll say is this. All of you said we need more transparency, and I will tell you, Mr. Merritt, I pulled out your mission statement earlier today, and it says pharmacy benefit managers reduce prescription drug costs and improve convenience and safety for consumers. Reduce prescription drug costs. Right. How's that working out for everybody? If it were working out, we wouldn't be here now. If it were working out, then we wouldn't have had a 1,553% increase in prescription drug costs since PBMs started. 1,553% increase.
CMS said the growth was 1% last year.
Mr. Merritt, transparency is the key. The most immediate, the most significant impact that we can have on drug prices is to have transparency. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen.